What's up, guys? Subzeric here. I'm so hyped for this. I got to playtest set 11 early, and I'm going to show you guys everything that I know about set 11, talk about my thoughts on it, and just give you guys the rundown of everything you need to know for set 11. Keep in mind, this stuff is work in progress, so a lot of this stuff might change from when I saw it to when you guys get to see it to when it goes live, so definitely keep that in mind. But, you know, I think the base set mechanic itself, the base things that the traits do, probably will not change. I got this VOD in the background of me playing set 11 where you can see me just jumping around putting some of the units in. I'm not going to go too in depth in the VOD because I really just want to, I'm going to talk about the set mechanic and then go down all the traits and talk through them and what I think about them and what my experience was. So we'll start with the set mechanic itself, which is these things called encounters. You're going to see one of these at the stage 2 carousel in just a few rounds, so, you know, just wait. They're absolutely beautiful the way they put these together. The visuals on the set are insane. And encounters, the way I've been sort of thinking about them is they're kind of like portals if portals happened during the game. So, for example, the encounter that we see at the middle of the stage, you see this little like button. It almost looks like a little button, a little indicator on the stage up there at the top. It gives, I think it's kind of like the one that like every unit on a carousel is holding 2 items set. I think that's what it is. We'll see in a sec. So they can do like little stuff like that. That's basically like what a portal does. What the Shuriman Bazaar, I think, is what it used to be called, and then it was called something else. But they do stuff like that. That's, you know, like portal effects. They also have some really crazy effects. One of the most wild ones that I got to see is the Kane one, where Kane comes in at the start of the game. He says, "Hey, I'm Kane. I'm going to kill you guys." And at, I think it's 5-5, after stage 5 carousel, he kills every person in the lobby relative to their HP. So if you're 8th place at 5-5, you have the strongest board in the world. It doesn't matter because Kane's going to beat your board and you're going to go 8th. So it kind of like flips on your head the entire way you play TFT. There's one where I didn't get to play with it, but they talked about it, where you like sacrifice a shop slot, like you lose one of your slots in your shop, but you gain an advantage or something. There's some crazy stuff they're doing with these encounters. I'm really hyped for it. I really like this idea of encounters as just a little bit of spice on the game. You know, they can be some crazy changes. They can be, you know, like small changes, you know, oh, everyone gets an item or something like that. Everyone gets some units or something like that. It's nice to have something like that. That doesn't radically change how you play the game. You're playing TFT. You're playing your same old TFT that you love with just a little bit of spice. I think that's all TFT needs, is just TFT with a little bit of spice, with some really nice visuals and, you know, some added variants from cool stuff. So I'm in love with these. I think they're really cool. Just nice way to add some spice onto the game. And so that's the set mechanic. They keep it pretty simple with this set. You know, we're not doing portals and legends and blah blah. We're just doing this little set mechanic and yeah, like you can see here. Oh, okay, so yeah, you get an extra offensive component on every champion on the carousel, and you can see, like, look how cool it looks. That's Yone, I guess, and he goes all this stuff going on around him. I'm this set's so cool. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go through all the traits. I can't actually show the cheat sheet that they gave us, so I'm just gonna run down the sheet and talk through each trait and my thoughts on it. I'm not gonna talk about specific numbers because, once again, like, those probably have changed from my playtest to your PBE, but yeah. So I'm just gonna go down them alphabetically, or just however they have them in this, which is, I think, alphabetically. Okay, so first we got Dragon Lord. Dragon Lord, it's not like a deep vertical. There's only 4 units in Dragon Lord. Janna, Diana, Lee Sin, and Xayah/Rakan, which is a 5 cost, which is wild. If you saw my last video, or I probably put it out after this video, but if you see my next video, I guess you'll get to see them in action a bit. Where it's kind of like Tempest, I think it was called, where after X amount of seconds on PB or on playtest, it was 8 seconds, the dragon strikes the board, does true damage to all the enemies, and gives attack speed to all your allies. So it's a really cool, like, buff nerf type trait. Like, you get a little bit, you know, of damage. You get a little bit of attack speed on your board. Like, Tempest was like a little splash you would do that gave you CC. CC was kind of crazy, but still, percent HP damage. It's percent HP damage and attack speed to your entire team. Is pretty wild. Is not bad whatsoever. So that's Dragon Lord. It's, like I said, it's not like a deep vertical. You need like a lot of spats to go like deep vertical on that. But it's just a little bit of It's just a little bit of a thing that you can put in a few units, get some extra attack speed to your team, some extra damage to the enemy team. And you do have to get to like 8 seconds in combat. So that's sort of like another thing. Okay, next we have Dryad. Dryad is a really, really cool new tank trait. So what Dryads do is they gain AP and HP, and that HP scales with the number of kills you get on enemy units for the entire game. So we start off, say I start off the game with 2 Dryad in, and we kill, 4 units against someone. The next fight, we kill 5 units. All my Dryads are going to get a little bit of extra health for each unit killed. And then late game, say I get the Dryad 4 cost in, which is Ornn. He's the 4 cost Dryad tank that you want to play around. He's going to get all that HP that was stacked up. It's for all Dryad units. It's not like on the specific units. It's for all Dryad units. So it's an interesting like stacking trait where you want to get in early, usually play around the little Dryads, and stack up. Because there's 1 and 2 cost Dryads. There is Rek'Sai and Gnar. So you get those in early, start stacking up. Oh, and there's also Kindred, who's a Dryad, which is pretty cool. So yeah, you start stacking the HP early, and like getting a little bit of that stacked up. And then by the time you get to late game, you have all this HP stacked up. You pivot into the Ornn. There's a 5 cost Azir, which he's in my video that is going to come out right after this. So you play around those guys late game, and then you have all this HP to play around. So it's an interesting sort of like stacking trait. I enjoyed it when I play around it. I actually had a game where I took what's that augment that people don't like? It's Joe Bookmark likes it a lot, where it gives you a 4 cost, and then it basically gives you a free 2-star 4 cost. I'm blanking on the name of it for some reason, but there's that. You get that, and I got an early Ornn, and so I was already stacking up the Dryads. I got in 4 Dryads, and I was really stacking them up, because the more you get in, the more you stack up. It's a really, really cool like stacking tank trade. I also realized if I'm gonna go this much depth in all of them, this is gonna be a 40-minute video, so maybe I'll try to go a little bit faster. All right, next we have Fated. Fated is one of the premier verticals. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 champions in Fated, and it goes up to 7. With a spat. So it's a premier vertical. Fated has this really, really cool effect where you hover the champions over each other. So you like click one and drag it over the other one and hover it over them, and they pair. They get like soul bonded. And at lower levels of Fated, those 2 Fated units get a specific bonus. At higher levels of Fated, your entire team gets that bonus. The paired units always get HP, but it's really, really cool. You get to like pair 2 units and say, these are the 2 Fated units that I care about. I'm going to play 3 Fated, but these 2 units I'm going to pair up and really, really care about. So it's pretty cool. I like it a lot. It's very nice aesthetically. You play around like Syndra as your main carry. She's an AP carry that will, She's got a cool effect. I'm not gonna be able to talk about every unit, but she basically summons butterflies every cast and every time your ally dies. And when she casts, she throws the butterflies. So she's kind of like a ramping, scaling EP carry, which is pretty wild. All right, next we got the econ trait of the set. This is Fortune. So it's a loss streak trait where when you lose fights, you gain luck. And then you lose luck when you win, so you want to loss streak to get a big cash out. But the interesting thing is this roll a die aspect of it, where you're gonna roll a die, and then that's gonna tell you how many combats you have to wait before you get your cash out. So, like imagine this set, I'm already forgetting what it was called. Like I'm thinking Underground, but it's not called Underground. Heartsteel. Imagine Heartsteel, where like, you have to wait 4 rounds every time, but like this, you roll a lucky die and you get like 6 combats. So you have like 6 combats to stack up your Heartsteel. And then you can do the same sort of like raise the stakes thing as Heartsteel. Though I didn't really get a chance to play around it, so I don't know exactly how it works, but I think it's the same kind of idea where, like you delay your cash out and you get a bigger cash out later. But yeah, it's a pretty cool econ trait. What's crazy is, at least the version that I played, the 5 version of it heals you every round. You get 3 in initially just to get the die and to get the cash out, but 5 you start healing. You get like the augment, the metabolic accelerator type thing, which is pretty wild. So like it kind of is built-in healing if you can get up to 5, though you need a spat to get up to 5 and a 4 cost, which is pretty no, actually no, there's actually 5 of them. Yeah, I didn't get to play around too much, but yeah, there's 5 of them. It also actually, the Fortune 1 cost is a new unit named Kobuko, who is like a little Yordle. He's a bruiser plus Fortune unit, and he actually cares about econ. The more fights, the more econ you generate, the more interest you generate. Every 1 gold of interest goes to his HP and he gains extra HP. So, you know, if you generate 4 gold of interest, he gets like 4 times 10, you know, like HP for that round or something like that. So it's really cool. He stacks up HP for your interest, which is wild. All right, next we got Ghostly. Ghostly is one of the ones I got to play around the least. So this is just me like playing against other people. Like I didn't actually get to play like a Ghostly carry game. I just got to kind of like get it in. I didn't pay super close attention to it. But upon dealing or taking damage 7 times is what we had in the playtest. They send 2 ghosts to nearby enemies and heal themselves. And then the enemies take damage per each ghost on them. And then when they die, they give the ghost to another unit. So it's kind of cool. It reminds me almost of what was it called? Where we had Callista in the past. It was like Callista and Shadow Isles. Shadow Isles, where like they have to take damage a bunch of times. This is only, no, it is dealing damage as well. So it's kind of like that Shadow Isles where you have to stack up and then you get the Shadow Isles effect. But instead of like the Shadow Isles like shield and stuff, they're sending the ghosts out, healing themselves up, and then spreading the ghosts on death, which is pretty cool. I wanted to play around that one more. I just didn't get a chance to too much. All right, next we have Heavenly. This is what my my next video that I'm putting out is all about. Heavenly is guild, which if you didn't play around guild, each unit has their own bonus, and as you put them in, you kind of like build your own trait, where say, you know, like Kha'Zix gives your team crit chance, and then Malphite gives your team RNMR. So if you have Kha'Zix and Malphite, you get crit chance and RNMR, and then you put Nico and you get HP, and you get all 3 of those. But if you take Nico out, you lose that HP bonus. So it's kind of like a build your own trait that scales up the more units that you have in of that trait. And it also scales with star level. So it's kind of like it's almost like a reroll type guild, which is pretty cool. I'm very, very hyped to get to play more around this and like the reroll version of it. It is pretty wild. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm very excited to play more. I played around on the playtest. It was very, very strong. All right, next we have Ink Shadow. Ink Shadow is a lot like Zon in the past. So as you get units in, you get what would be like Zon mods, but they're Ink Shadow items. Your Ink Shadow units get bonus damage and damage reduction. And what's really interesting is the Ink Shadow items can go on anyone. So even if you get, you know, if you put 3 Ink Shadow and get an Ink Shadow item, you can still put that Ink Shadow item on a non-Ink Shadow champion. This is another one that I didn't get a chance to play around too much, so I don't know, like I don't have a big list of all the Ink Shadow items and their effects. They were pretty strong effects when I was playing, but I mean, I guess you'll just have to see when it comes out, when someone posts like a big graphic of all of them. All right, next we have Mythic. This is another one of like the big verticals. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units in here. 1, 2, I can't count. 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think that's 7 units in Mythic. So Mythic units, they gain HP, ability power, and attack speed. And it's similar. I forget there was a trait that was like this in the past, but there's definitely been one where after 4 combats, they increase that bonus. So they increase that bonus by 50%. They become epic. So you want to get those in early, give enough rounds for them to stack up their Mythic, and then you have the epic Mythic bonus. So it's a pretty cool trait where you want to like get the Mythics in early, and then if you're gonna make a big pivot, you have to do it a little bit early so you can get the Mythic units in and stack up that Mythic bonus. So pretty cool. A lot of cool units in there. A pretty cool vertical to play around. Porcelain is another sort of like small trait. It's not a deep vertical. There's only 4 units in Porcelain. After casting, the Porcelain units gain attack speed and take less damage for 3 seconds. Pretty cool. I mean, just a nice little trait where you're gonna put in a couple of porcelain units. You can see I have Lysandra on this board. She's a porcelain unit that I don't actually have porcelain in here. And yeah, you just get like a little bit of a bonus. It's not crazy, it's not insane, but it's good. It's a nice little thing. Next we have Snipers, which have existed before. They gain extra range and they deal more damage to targets per hex away they are from them. So if this has happened before, I don't really need to talk about that one too much. Story Weaver is another really cool one that we actually have in here. So you can see here, you can see I have this Kale summoned from Story Weaver. It's a really cool trait where we summon up the Kale, and then the Kale gets bonuses based on the number of Story Weaver units we have in. So we only have 3 in, so she gets that first bonus. And the cool thing about it is it's a choose your own adventure story. You can pick one of 3 bonuses here for the Kale to get. So you can build your own carry summoner trait. It's really sick. I want to play around this one so much more because like I love I love summoner trait type stuff, but it's interesting because it's a summoner trait like carry almost, but she's also like more supportive. She doesn't do that much damage on her own, at least in the version that I played. Maybe she'll become more of a carry in her own right as like changes happen. But yeah, she's not like one-shotting people, but I don't know. Maybe you can get her to a point where she does. Umbral is another one, which we have in here as well. You can see that these hexes that we have, those hexes give your units shields, and then if you put an Umbral unit in them, they get an execute, which is pretty cool. So I had a Lunin for a while this game. I have her back there on this this back hex here, and her spell is executing 12% HP. If she gets them to 12 HP, she executes them 12% HP. So a pretty cool like execute plus, like it's supportive for your team, but it's also good for the Umbral units. It's pretty cool. I really like how the hexes look. It's always the same pattern of the moon, so keep that in mind. All right, so that's all the either traits, or I think that's all the origins, and now we're gonna go into all the whatever. We're gonna go to the opposite one. Ultrist is a pretty cool trait. It's only got 3 units in it: Riven, Soraka, and Rakan. But if you get more of them in, you get more RNMR to your entire team. So it's one of those team buff traits. And also the Ultrist units heal the lowest ally for 50% of the damage they deal, which is kind of weird because they don't all deal that much damage on their own. Like Soraka, in my experience, didn't do that much damage. Riven didn't do that much damage. Rakan does a lot of damage. So it's like kind of like a little bonus. I feel like the main thing you play this for is just the team-wide armor and MR bonus, which is, I mean, very, very good. Arcanist, another callback trait that we've seen before. Your Arcanists gain AP, and the more you give in, they give AP to your team, and they give more AP to themselves. So pretty straightforward. If you've ever seen Arcanist, it's just, you know, you get AP, and it's just that. It's just like the mage type trait. So yeah. I guess I can talk about the 5-cost individual traits because we have Artist here. This is Hui's trait. Hui is a 5-cost this set, and what Hui does is he takes a set, he takes the middle hex on your bench, and if you put a unit in that, he paints a copy of them and like creates an extra one. So he's basically like a free duplicator every X amount of rounds, where X is the cost of the unit. So if you get a Hui early, you keep him in, like you get an early Hui and you get a pair of 5-cost, put the 5-cost on the bench, 5 rounds later, you have a 2-star 5-cost because you got an extra copy, and then, yeah. You can also, like, if you're playing some kind of reroll comp, but somehow you get to Hui, put a 1-cost on there, duplicates it, boom, you get another one, and you get an easy 3-star 1-cost. So really, really cool, unique trait. It's very, very nice. Behemoth is a new tank trait. So all the behemoths get arm and MR, and then when a behemoth dies, the nearest behemoth to them gets 50% more for a limited amount of time. So it's kind of a cool, like, you kind of want to sack your weaker behemoth to make your stronger behemoth more tankier. Which is I don't know, it's an interesting design space, and it's like an arm and MR frontline trait where there's a decent amount of frontliners. We got Bruiser next. Bruiser, callback, your team gains HP, Bruisers gain more HP. Pretty straightforward. Duelist, another callback trait. Your duelists gain attack speed, and every time they attack, they gain more attack speed. So 2 more callbacks there. There's a decent amount of callbacks, which I almost kind of like, you know, keeps the set like relatively chill. I mean, they obviously, you know, like popped off with a lot of like it's like Origins are the ones that are more, or I forget whichever, but the ones that I already talked about are like the more like interesting, like new crazy ones like Storyweaver and stuff. But like these ones are generally going to be more simple. There is one here that is really not simple. Well, I mean, it's a simple effect, but it's strange in the way that it works, which is Exalted. Exalted is so wild. I'm not sure if I had Exalted in this game that you could see, but what Exalted does is after combat, you get a soul core that goes on your bench. You can sell that to turn into XP. As far as I know, I don't really understand. I think you can just sell it every round to gain 2 XP, and the only reason why you would keep it stacking up on your bench is if you wanted to like stay a lower level artificially. But I believe you can just sell it every round, gain 2 XP per round, and your team gains bonus damage per level. So it's a team-wide buff. But what's crazy about Exalted is there are no Exalted units. They're just units that can become Exalted. So every game, the Exalted units change. So you can see the little mark down here next to my shop. And also, I just realized I'm going to have to pull up another VOD because we are basically through this game. And yeah, okay, I'll pull up another one, which I'm probably going to make a tuber out of. So yeah, I might tuber this game. We'll see. But I got more content for you guys. Actually, this game I might have bought for it. I don't recall. It's like, this is definitely a longer VOD, the 1 hour and 35-minute VOD, but you can have it for you. But yeah, oh, and I have like the Discord in, but like that's fine. Like I'll get rid of it a little bit into the game. In any case, where was I? Oh, Exalted. So different units can be exalted each game. Maybe I'll hover over it this time in this game. But yeah, like you don't necessarily have units that are exalted. They can just kind of become exalted based on just what units are exalted this game. So it means you're always cooking, you're always putting in different units that are exalted. You're not saying like, oh, okay, well, I'm just always gonna put in these units and he kind of like, you know, in this game, Bard's an exalted. Bard in the game you just saw, he was not exalted. So it changes every game. It's kind of like Mirage and that type of stuff where it changes each game. The units that change, the units that are exalted change, which is pretty wild. It allows for some really, really interesting boards. And it's a cool kind of like econ trait that also buffs your team. Great. This is Wukong's trait. Wukong is another 5 cost, and basically Wukong has a 3-part cast. I talk about it in my next video that I'm putting out. It's about Wukong carry exists in that video. He every 3 casts, he basically makes his abilities better. He extends his rod and makes his ability better. Also, I took this Lucky Paws augment this game. Oh yeah, if I remember this game, I tried to build around this Lucky Paws, like basically hero augment. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have because I had no items for my Kobuko, who I talked about earlier. But yeah, so it's a cool like sort of like scaling way for the 5 costs to get stronger across the game. All right, we got Invoker next, which is, you know, same old Invoker that we've seen before. Every 3 seconds, your units gain mana. It buffs your team, and then if you add more, kind of the same way that Arcanists, is it called Arcanists? Yes, same way that Arcanists work, where if you get more in, you buff like specifically the Invoker units more. So, you know, cool. You know, Invokers. I love Invokers, honestly. I love playing around them in the past. Lily is an Invoker. She is so cool. I feel like she's already my favorite carry. I still haven't got a chance to play around everyone too much, but Lilia is too cool. So I really like her. We got Lovers next, which is Xayah and Rakan trait. Xayah and Rakan is 1 unit, but they're also not 1 unit. They're kind of similar to Jace in the past, where frontline you get an effect and backline you get an effect, but they swap out. So frontline you get Rakan and backline you get Xayah, which is really, really cool. And then the other one, Xayah or Rakan respectively, like if you have frontline, you have Rakan on the frontline. Xayah is actually going to be on the side of the board and she'll like kind of like help him out, which is pretty wild. Rakan is a crazy cast that I talk about in the video that I'm going to put out after this. I didn't get a chance to play around Xayah too much, but really, really cool that they go front and back. And they also give different traits. So I should say that as well. They give different traits. So frontline, Rakan is an Ultrist, and backline, Xayah is a Trick Shot, which I haven't talked about yet, but we will get to in just 1 second. Reaper is another trait. It's structured similar to like Rogue, where there's only 4 units and it only goes up to 4. At 2 Reapers, they gain their abilities can crit and they gain extra crit chance, so it's just a way for them to spell crit. And then at 4 Reapers, they bleed their enemies for a bunch of true damage. So very, very similar, I feel like, to Rogue. Reminds me of that a lot. Next, we have Sage in, which is a trait. It reminds me a lot of, I think it was Strategist is what it was called. Where your allies in the front line get something, allies in your back line get something. So your allies in front line with Sage get Omnivamp, allies in the back line gain ability power. So it's a cool team-wide buff that changes based on where you put your units. So it reminds me a lot of Strategist. Spirit Walker. This is Udyr's unique trait. So Udyr is another 5 cost. When he drops below 50% HP, he heals himself back up to full, and he gains increased movement speed, and he changes his ability. So before he has it's like kind of more defensive. I think the Ram Slam, but he changes it to Tiger Strikes when he evolves. I didn't get a chance to like look too closely at Udyr, but basically he evolves. I mean, he not evolves, but he heals himself back up and he starts just slapping people. So really, really cool carry, kind of like melee type carry that can do some wild stuff. Only 2 more. We got Trick Shot, like I said I was going to talk about. Trick Shot's abilities are Ricochet. That Ricochet does just a percentage of damage, so it's just, you know, it reminds me of maybe it was Quick Shot or something like that, where, you know, their abilities, they do their ability and then, you know, like Teemo throws a mushroom and then the team mushroom can like bounce. So we've seen similar stuff like this, but we also have like AD carries in there, like Kai'Sa, and I'd have to imagine Xayah's AD. So it's interesting. It's like AP/AD depending on which ones that you put in. And Bard's in there. Bard is a really weird unit. So I want to play around Trick Shot more because it's another one that I didn't get a chance to play around too much. And then the final trait that I'm going to talk about is Warden. So this is another tank trait. they gain damage reduction, and then for the first 10 seconds of combat, they gain additional damage reduction. Kind of like protectors, right? Where that's how protectors work, right? At the beginning of combat, they would get like extra, but it's not resist, it's a damage reduction. So you really want to get flat resist on them, HP on them. You just want to give them stats for the damage reduction to scale off of. And yeah, that is all the traits plus my sort of like overview of the set mechanic. And you guys get to watch me play a little bit. That should give you information about all the traits. Obviously, we have all the units to go over as well, which I don't know if I'm going to do an individual video going over every single unit. That is a lot of work. I'll probably just put out these videos of me playing around them. You'll see the units, that kind of stuff. And then once PBE comes out, I will play with all of you guys on PBE. So it'll be awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe. If you want to join in-houses, then you got to follow my Twitch down below, which is where I'm going to be doing it all. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.